My mom taught me to sell at a spaza shop. She ran a hair salon. I pretty much learned entrepreneurship from my mom's.
Umntu ngumntu ngabantu. That on your own, you can't really do it. You need the support of those around you.
You will have a network of people, a network of communities, and a society that will make sure that you count.
Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to another episode in the Saita Straight Talk series. Within the Saita Straight Talk series, we endeavor to talk to you about all the pertinent issues of the informal sector. And tonight, I promise you, is going to be no different. And we have an esteemed panel of people that's going to impart their skill and knowledge with us this evening. Let me welcome each of our panelists before I tell you what exactly our topic tonight is going to be about. We have on board Annemarie Kiaga. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Louise, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Annemarie Kiaga. I am ILO's Informal Economy Specialist. ILO stands for International Labour Organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Annemarie. And I know it's a warm welcome from South Africa all the way to Harare, then Zimbabwe. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
We also want to welcome Francisca Velapi. Welcome, Francisca.
Thank you so much, Louise. Thanks for the invitation again. And a good evening to the viewers of Saita streaming. My name is Francisca Velapi. I'm actually currently in Hartbeespoort. I'm based in the Pretoria office of the International Labour Organization. I am the National Project Coordinator for a project which includes the transition to formality, from formal economy from informal economy to formal economy, and many other things in the same basket. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francisca. Then we have from Durban, good evening, Pat Horn. Welcome.
Hi, Louise, and hi to all the watchers and the listeners. I'd like to greet all of you. I'm Pat Horn. I'm from Durban and working for WeGo, Women in Informal Employment, Globalizing and Organizing, and also in the NEDLAC community constituency, representing workers in the informal economy.
Thank you, Pat. Then I see another lady that has jumped on here. It's our own president. Thank you for joining us, Rashida. Please greet our viewers.
Good evening, everybody. I will remain as an observer, but I can't wait for tonight's exciting, the input that I'm going to hear. As Pat knows, R204 has been long on our agenda. But I'm just an observer here, so I'm sorry for jumping in here. Thank you, Louise.
No, Madam President, just after the gentlemen have introduced themselves, I am going to give you 2 minutes to just speak. So please don't go too far. Then we have our General Secretary of Saita. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Louise. Good evening, the viewers at home. Good evening, our panelists. My name is Michael Mokoja, the General Secretary of South African Informal Traders Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And then we have David Venter, who is the chairperson of the Saita Economic Development Forum. Good evening, David.
Good evening, Louise. Good evening, our panelists. And I'm very happy to see our president joining us. Many of our viewers might not know that she's been in hospital and she forced her way in to be on the show tonight. What an amazing leader we have. But just welcome to everybody, and I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Rashida, before we start our conversation tonight, I want to give you an opportunity to just tell our viewers who and what is Saita?
Well, Saita, the South African Informal Traders Alliance. I wish to welcome all of you who are listening and viewing us tonight on Facebook. Saita is an organization which is a national movement for informal traders across the country. We have representation in all 9 provinces. And we are proud to say tonight that we have the one person that, that has led us to the formation and the unity that we currently have. She doesn't like me to talk about her, but unfortunately, we have to give recognition to Dr. Pat Horn, who has tirelessly since 2004, 5, 6, around there, has made it possible for Saita to launch in 2013, where all 9 provinces had representation. Saita is the voice of the informal sector, and it is our aim and objective to ensure that economic empowerment and development of the informal traders is high on the agenda of government. We also have a direct link as a national movement to the national government. At provincial level, we have it with provincial government. And of course, we all know the struggles at the local level. But do not let me take up any more time, Louise. Thank you for acknowledging me, and I can't wait to hear the discussion tonight.
Thank you so much, Madam President. It's always an honor to have you on the show. I just want to tell our viewers that the comment line on our Facebook page is open. So if there's any comment or question that you want to pose to the panelist, please use that option. But let's start with tonight's discussion. The recommendation 204. Francisca, can I ask you to please give us the background to this recommendation?
Okay, thank you very much, Louise. I thought it is imperative for me, before I even give the background, just to give the background of what the International Labour Organization is and what it stands for. We are a UN agency, and core to the functions or the duties and principles and values of the ILO is that we assist member states in setting standards for workers in the workplace. So this recommendation, I would like to differentiate between 2 things. In the ILO, South Africa is a member state of the ILO. So annually there will be a conference, and our conferences are represented by the tripartite alliance, the community constituents, trade union movements or employers, and government representatives. So all these parties come together in a conference to discuss various issues. And the discussions around informality and formality has been going on for quite a long time. And I could imagine that it is not really a very easy a topic, yes. Back then in the early 2000s, it was like, how do we go around this thing? So debates have been going on in different conferences, which we call the International Labour Conferences. And only in 2015, on the 12th of June, the recommendation 204 was adopted at the conference. So there is a difference between a convention. Maybe some of the viewers at home would know some of the conventions, the Convention 111 that deals with non-discrimination and so on. But a convention is an international treaty which puts an obligation of a member state to implement it, to give effect to the content of that convention. And recommendations, there are two types of recommendations. Some are directly linked to a convention, and some are independent. They just stand on their own. So a recommendation is not necessarily an obligatory document, but it's a guideline for member states to ensure that they improve in various sectors. And in this instance, it is around the informal sector. So this recommendation, yes, it is a guiding principle for all that are in the sector, whether it is workers or economic units. Has got guiding principles, specific guiding principles, which I would like to share. There were 12 in the original. There are 12 in the original recommendation. And because, like I said, it is not really binding for member states to immediately want to implement all 12, can go with time. And for us, really, the most important one is recognition of diversity. You know, we have diversity issues, diversity challenges I think in all aspects of our lives, not only in the informal economy. Diversity issues still exist even in the formal economy. In the formal economy, in big corporates, there are still challenges around diversity, and this really ties to the 4 pillars of the ILO. And the first pillar is that of promoting jobs and entrepreneurship. So the ILO is very, very interested in making sure that, or ensuring that, we encourage and we support member states in participating and ensuring that there are localized policies that will ensure that this recommendation is implemented, much as we know that it is not an easy one. And the other one is, extending social protection for all, all sectors. The social protection extension is very critical. And we have seen that recently with the Occupational Health and Safety, the OSH Act, where the domestic workers had a voice and they were included. We think of the domestic workers as formalized, because there's a sexual determination, there is UIF, and there's that. But all that does not mean the sector is fully formal. It is partially formal, and it still have got challenges of informality because of lack of compliance by most of the people who are players in the sector. And the promotion, another pillar is the promotion of social dialogue. Can we talk? Can we improve on collective bargaining, on bargaining for rights of everybody, not only the formal collective bargaining, but we as the ILO also feel that through the R204, we need to encourage a dialogue with the powers that be and the informal economy players, especially those who are either working or owning the different economic units. So those are the main pillars of the ILO.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that clear description. I want to now move on to Anna-Marie. Anna-Marie, after listening to all of this, it's clear to me that we know that in the world there are informal traders everywhere around. So how does this recommendation fit globally? Is that why it's only a recommendation?
Okay, thank you, Louise. I think I will just complement what Francisca has already said. It is in the mandate of the ILO to promote social justice, and the framework with which we use is decent work. Now, for the last 30, 40 years, there has been, in trying to understand the labor market, there was identification of this group of people who were found to lack a lot of those decent standards that other workers in the labor market have, right? And therefore, there was the necessity then to help governments, for the ILO to help its member states to address what we call the decent work deficits. So what the pillars that Francisca has mentioned there, and the way they are actually missing in the informal economy, but to try and address them, from the rights of the workers there to access to all the services that are necessary for everyone in the labor market to work in a decent manner. So basically, what happened in 2015, as I say, after about almost 30 years of struggle to try and find a framework that we can all use, then there was an agreement then to say, okay, so these are the minimum standards that countries need to meet in order to help the people who are working or operating in the informal economy to transit. And I repeat the word transit because that is very, very important. It's not many times when people talk about formalization, which is what the recommendation is recommending and providing guidance for. People assume that, overnight people will just move, become formal. It is not. It's really a transition. There are many, many steps that will need to be taken, changes to be made in order for them to go to get to formal operations. So now what the R204 is doing globally, but after providing the guidance, many of the member states in the ILO have taken the guidance and try to develop their own, to adapt them to their own national, to their own laws and regulations in order to help the people in their own countries transit, right? So the guidance itself starts from, first of all, from the definition. Who is in the informal sector? When we say informal economy, what do we mean? The earlier efforts to understand what is happening here really focused on enterprises. So they were looking at informal enterprises and say, we think what is happening is people are working in these informal enterprises and it was basically enterprises that were not registered and maybe they're operating outside the law. So they're just focusing on that. And then after a number of years, they realized, no, it's not just enterprises. There are people who are actually employed in the enterprises. And that brought us from the term informal sector, which really limits on enterprises, to informal employment. So the informal employment now looked at those who are employed in these informal enterprises, and some even in the formal enterprises, but informally they do not have maybe formal contracts. They're not enjoying all the privileges that formal workers actually enjoy by working in informal enterprises. And then, so we ended up with two different definitions now. So we have an enterprise definition and we have a job definition. And then by 2015, then there was an agreement that said, okay, listen, in order for us to really cover everyone who works in this economy, let's have a general definition. So the definition that is provided in the recommendation 204 brings together this definition. It looks at all workers, it looks at all enterprises that operate maybe not covered fully by the laws in the nations or partially covered by the laws in the nations that they do. So that's the first thing that it provides, the definition, a clear definition, and also differentiating that with illegal work. That's another very, very important thing, because there's always this tiny little assumption in people's back of their minds that the people who are working in the informal sector, in the informal economy, are working illegally. No. The recommendation differentiates the two completely. We know what illegal activities are, and these are not illegal activities. These are people who, not even by their choice, many of them not by choice, have to work informally because there are no opportunities to actually work formally. This is their livelihood. So the other thing that actually the recommendation does, apart from defining that, is also making these differences, identifying who is in the informal economy and how they actually work there. And then it goes ahead to actually kind of emphasize what I think are 4 key things. One, because the recommendation is about formalization, it makes it very clear that formalization itself is not the end of what we are trying to do here. The end, it's just a means to an end. The end is actually decent work for all, right? And that is why, because for a long time, people didn't understand what to do with this particular group of workers and enterprises, then it provided guidance, just like it does for the formal sector. This is how you do an employment policy. So this time it also says, so for an employment policy to include the people in the informal sector, here are the requirements. Okay, in the formal sector, workers are covered by Social Security. They have income security. It defines what does that mean then for the people who are currently working informally. What do we do to make sure we extend the coverage? So there are all those instructions there. I won't go through all of them. So basically, at the global level right now, the recommendation 204 stands as the only, not the only, because there are many other conventions that affect different categories of workers and different categories of work, but it is the one standard that brings all of these together in one place as a guidance to the to its member states. There is a caveat, though. There is a need for the people in the formal economy themselves to show up, to be included in its implementation. And you heard Francisca say a little bit about it, but I think it's going to come out more strongly as we discuss. It is very, very important for people to actually be part and parcel of understanding it and implementing it. And therefore, this is one of the reasons I was very excited when I was invited to this meeting, because it is actually the first step. First, to understand what is out there, and then actually to use it to make sure that it stands for yourself. So I think I'm excited about the discussion. Let's see how far it's going to take. Right now, I can tell you in Africa, ILO is working with 38 countries trying to develop, to help them adapt the recommendation into their legal framework so that they can work with the people there. And globally, I think in Western Europe, I think there's more adaptation there than the rest of the world right now.
Thank you so much for that, Anna-Marie. Pat,
thank you.
I wanna come to you now and say we've now heard the global definition, but let's bring it home quickly. Because that's, for us, that's what matters right now. So what is the impact of this recommendation on South Africa and the informal sector? And why do you say what you say?
Okay, so yes, building on what both Francisca and Anna-Marie have said, we have to get rid of this idea that formalization is just only about business registration, because it's a whole lot broader than that. When Anna-Marie talked about enterprises, actually the term which is used is informal economic units. Workers and economic units. And then economic units, as she mentioned, covers enterprises, cooperatives, all kinds of entities, and then it covers the people, which are the workers. And the idea, as both of them have said, it's the formalization is to have is to move workers and informal economic units in the informal economy out of the situation of decent work deficits, and to have a situation of decent work. And as Francisca mentioned, the 4 pillars of decent work: income security, access to social protection, access to collective bargaining or representation, and then the other one is rights at work, all the rights to organize and not be discriminated, etc. So this is a recommendation, as you've heard, actually, a recommendation is something which you don't have to wait for governments to ratify them before you can demand that governments apply them. So, but these things don't apply themselves. So when you say, what is the impact? The question is, what has been done in that country by whoever to implement it? So on the whole, one wants government departments to implement it, a whole lot of different government departments. But you know what? We've discovered government departments are like wheelbarrows. They need to be pushed. So the question is, what has been done to make government departments implement? And in South Africa, a lot has had to do with Saita, which Pula is going to talk about, because this recommendation is a tool for us to use. If we don't use it, it has no impact. If we use it, we can make it have impact. So there is some impact in South Africa so far because we've been having workshops with workers in the informal economy, including probably many of the people listening here, ever since 2017, after we got back from the implementation. Our government officials set up a task team. They forgot to include us for the first 2 years. As Anna Marie says, we have to be included. That's part of the whole deal. So for the first 2 years, nothing happened, actually. In 2017, we became included, and then the workers in the informal economy were there, and the task team started to work. We haven't got enough time to talk in great detail because actually a lot has been happening. And I hope we'll do that more in some of the future ones. But I think to make it clear is that when I said it's not just about business registration, I know the employers were more interested in business registration than anything else. The government was more interested in collecting taxes from workers in the informal economy than anything else. But it's more than that as well. It's a package of issues along the lines of the pillars of decent work that we've all been mentioning. So we've been fighting for all of those issues. The task team has got a roadmap for the implementation of Recommendation 204. I hope we'll have in one of the follow-up ones, we'll talk more about what's happened under that roadmap. And what's been important is that workers in the informal economy, including Saita, but not confined to Saita, because Saita is not the entire informal economy. We have SAUPA, or South African Waste Pickers Association. We have the domestic workers unions. We have the home workers organizations. We have the community health workers organizations. We have the subsistence fisher peoples organizations. They've all been lobbying their government officials at all levels to implement Recommendation 204. And to be honest, there's been a lot of bottom-up activity. As a result of all the bottom-up activity, putting pressure on people in government, there's been some, maybe slow, but some progress. And we do have in South Africa now a very good set of guidelines on integration of waste pickers into solid waste management policies. That is a very good example of rights-based formalization as Recommendation 204. We now also have, very, very recently, out of the box, a new set of guidelines on public space trading, which is going to impact very much on informal traders, the members of Saita. And there we had different government departments that got together to develop that. SALGA, COGTA, the Department of Small Business Development, coordinated by GTAC, the Government Technical Advisory Committee. So we can talk quite a bit more because this is a slow business. As Anna Marie said, it's a transition. It's not an event, but it's a transition. And I think we've made some inroads, but we still have a long way to go. So even when it comes to what we call the economic side, Chapter 3 of the Recommendation 204 on legal and policy frameworks talk about local economic development, which is part involving the informal economy, and increased access by people in the informal economy to various things, including public space, including markets, including resources, and including legal protection. There's a whole list of things that workers and economic units need to have access to, which at the moment, because they're sitting a little bit outside of formal arrangements, they don't have full access to. And Chapter 3 is very detailed on this. So when you all go and you look up your recommendation 204, please look at Chapter 3 and you'll see what I'm talking about. And Chapter 6 talks about the reduction of barriers to formalization, the barriers that stop you from joining in. So finally, one of the questions that you'd asked is, do we have the vehicle and resources in South Africa to make it work? Well, the good news is implementing Recommendation 204 does not need additional resources. It doesn't need lots of money. It needs political will. It needs the coordination of efforts, which means all government departments working together. It needs inclusive processes, which is what Anna Marie was talking about, and participatory budgeting processes, so that the people who would be affected by it are engaging with the authorities to agree on how existing resources need to be allocated more smartly so that it results in the kind of formalization process we're talking about. Let me leave it there.
Thanks, Pat. I see our comrade GS lost his signal, so he's off. So I'm going to, David, I'm going to direct the next section to you, because Pat also now started touching on the economy. And as the head of economic development, David, how do you see this R204 impacting the informal trading sector?
Thank you, Louise. I think the R204 is it's very, very important that we start engaging the way we are and really start looking at implementation. I think what we are doing within Saita is that we're not just waiting on government to act, but we are kind of taking the bull by the horns and starting to ride the bull ourselves, and really starting to apply pressure by leading this process. So I think COVID-19 has really changed a lot for us. Our informal traders, our businesses are really suffering. Our work, when you say informal, they say informal employers, that includes our businesses as well as those within informal employment, are really suffering. And as such, I think we have to find a way to accelerate this particular process. It's really important when you do talk about growing I think we're not talking about moving from informal to formal. We all have different understanding, but ultimately, if one looks at R204, what you're looking at is how do we as informal businesses start playing a bigger role, if I could term it as such, within the economic development or even economic recovery of our country. We all understand that employment creation and economic development currently reside within SMMEs, but there's been a much bigger focus now looking within the informal sector and micro enterprises, where we're going to create these jobs. In where South Africa is finding itself now currently, it's absolutely alarming, with a 64% unemployment rate in youth, ages between 15 and 24. So something has to be done. So in 2020, October 2020, Saita's NEC decided to form an economic development forum, which would look and seek opportunities within the informal sector and bring those opportunities to the informal sector. Really within the EDF acting as a bridge between both formal business and the informal sector, but also looking to see how we can work and attract opportunities from government into the informal sector. We know that there's quite a lot of opportunities there in the form of tenders and many other purchasing vehicles which one could access. But due to what we like to term red tape, we can't access that. But while we are waiting for that to be say, reduced to a certain extent, we have to do something now. So within the EDF, I just want to share some numbers to just give our viewers a little bit of an understanding of what we're talking about when we do say the informal. I'd say informal sector. I wouldn't really term it informal economy right now. But in South Africa, the informal economy, which includes the business people, if I could use that term, as well as the employees. So everyone collective, we make up about 60% of total employment within the world. And in South Africa, the informal economy makes up about 30% of the total employment in South Africa, as per our stats records in 2017. Now, what does 30% of total employment mean? We have got about 14.9 million people in our workforce currently, well, not late workforce, but which is currently employed in South Africa, 14.9 million people. So when we say that the informal sector employs 30% of that number, we are talking about 4.4 million workers within the informal economy in South Africa. Now, those were figures that were derived before COVID-19 hit us. During COVID, we lost a further 1.8 million jobs. Now, when one looks at the statistics, you would find that most workers that find themselves within the informal economy in South Africa, 63.5% of workers that's currently within the informal economy are here because they can't find alternative employment. They are unemployed. They can't find another source of income. So they resort to the informal sector. So if you've got 1.8 million people that have lost jobs, then you could say statistically about 63% of those people have found their way into the informal economy. Now, these numbers still have to be reported on because the last report, the last count was done in 2017. So when you add all these numbers together, the estimated figure in South Africa is in excess of 5 million people. So, this is just what we're estimating. We actually think that might be slightly more. But one more interesting fact that I want to share with our viewers to just understand again when we talk the informal economy, what numbers we're talking about. In South Africa, it's estimated that the informal sector contributes 6% to the GDP of South Africa. Yeah. But again, what does that mean? What does 6% mean of the GDP? The GDP of South Africa estimated for 2021 was set at 320 billion US dollars, not rands, US dollars, 320 billion. So if you take 6% of that and you say, as an informal economy in South Africa, we contribute 6%, you are talking in the region of 19 billion US dollars that we contribute to the economy in South Africa. Now, I've decided to leave it at 19 billion US dollars because to convert that to rands, viewers, you can multiply that by 14.82. I don't want to have another presidential moment on this.
Please not.
on this particular show because the number's pretty big. But work it out, and now you could see what we are talking about when we talk contribution of the sector in South Africa. So just very, very quickly, and just a last point from my side. So within the EDF, what we're looking at, as I said, was to attract investment from formal to the informal sector. We're also looking at building partnerships. We are looking at doing the very same between government and the informal sector. But very importantly, from the numbers that I've just shared, how do we get the informal sector to trade with the informal sector? How do we bridge that gap when we start trading with each other? If we are saying there's this amount of money. So the EDF and within Saita, that is what we're currently working on quite aggressively. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, David. Michael, I had to jump to David when you lost your signal there for a little bit, but I want you to please put our viewers in the picture with regards to Saita's stance around the implementation of Recommendation 204.
Thank you, Louise. What Comrade Patton said just said a mouthful about the implementation here in South Africa, of which it's happening very slow. And also what I like is that Saita is part of the committee that is trying to make sure that this recommendation is implemented. But I have a few questions that maybe the Francina or Atlika can answer it. When you remember, the recommendation was done on the 1st of June 2015 on 101 session of ILO. 104 actually, session of ILO, 2015. But now we are on 2021. No processes that is having that you are having. The issue is that who is supposed to implement that recommendation? Because we have our government, which is always playing hide and seek, because they want to implement in their way. For example, in South Africa here, from our Department of Small Business, they come up with the program called TRAP. TRAP is it's a program that they are trying to fund the small businesses. Only if they register, they are formalizing their businesses. Then the question comes, when you check both TRAP and then you also check the R204, you will realize that they are implementing R204 indirectly. Because before you access funding from that TRAP program, you need to formalize your business. You need to register your business. You need to register for UIF. You need to go for tax, everything that all the formal businesses are doing. So when you sit down and see, you will realize that this is a transition from informal to formal. But without the proper planning, without the proper strategy, because you can transit by force, meaning that after a year or two, your business will collapse. You'll go back to informal businesses because you never transit the way you have to. There is no program set in place to assist the informal businesses that when we transit, here are the programs that is going to help you so that at least the business must be sustainable. From the informal sector, no one wants to be informal for good. We all want to see ourselves going somewhere. We all want to see ourselves creating more jobs for our people, seeing our business growing. But how can we grow? We cannot just rush to grow while there is no strategic planning. So that's why I'm just saying that who's supposed to implement that? And also the question that I have is also that what ILO do to see that all the member states are doing what it's supposed to be done in terms of this transition. Are there any reports that come into ILO that says from the member state we have done 1, 2, 3, or is there anything that they didn't come? Because if they have the reports and then they can maybe advise, I think we will see us not discussing every year about R204. We'll be discussing about the fruits that you are getting from that R204. Because according to us as the informal trader, this R204 is a very good initiative that will assist our government in terms of creating the jobs, in terms of the GDP, as David said. We are taking a very great part in terms of creating the economy of this country. But it's very important that whatever that the government is doing, it must include the informal traders or informal economy organizations into their planning strategies, because you can plan things, but if you can't plan and you are not into the field, you can't know anything about it. I think I have a problem of a network from here. I can see it's very low, but let me say
Thank
for
you.
now.
Thank you, Michael. David, do you want to respond or add anything before I give the ladies an opportunity?
Thank you, Louise. Our General Secretary has asked a very important question. And I think just for us to also understand the role of the ILO. As mentioned, as Saita, we have started engaging on different fronts, and we have started acting because we can't wait any longer. Our members need us to act. But as an individual organization, there's only so much that we can do. So I think the question is very valid for us to understand how we can collaborate, how we can work together in terms of, having this implementation R204 executed, and how we can get more partners on board. But yeah, I'd like to hear from the panel as well. Thank you.
Which of the ladies of the hour would like to respond to that, please? I see smiles.
I can go first. Anna-Marie will urge.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very pertinent inputs and questions raised. I'm very excited about the work that Saita intends to do. And as the ILO, as you know, we are providing support, to member states and the different social partners. So what David has just said now is very, very critical. How does the sector players collaborate so that you form a very much stronger and formidable force, so that when you come to the ILO requesting for support, it is even much broader. It is not just one organization there and then another one there. So that for me, it is very, very important. It is critical, and it will also show whoever of the other constituents that you are really powerful, you are really formidable. And I think with that approach, like Pat has said, that what is nice about the recommendation is that you do not have to wait for government to ratify. You can actually implement it. There's already a task team which sits at NEDLEC. And when you are organized in that way, and you are a formidable force, definitely the ILO is willing and prepared to support your programs to ensure that there is that, the steps towards transiting to formality. It is not an event. It takes, many different steps to ensure that we get there at some point, but we just need to be intentional with what we want to do. Anna-Marie?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Francisca. I could just add just 3 things there, and just to almost repeat some of the things we said earlier. One, I think Michael, unfortunately, is not here, but I just wanted to say, do not lose hope. It took forever to get to 2015 and get the R204 recommendation itself. And therefore, we expect it might take even longer to really, really start seeing things on the ground. And really, the ingredient that is necessary there is what Pat mentioned earlier, political will. The ILO, here's a little caveat. There's ILO as an organization and an office. The organization is what decided to have R204, right? Meaning workers, employers, and governments together came to an agreement that, yes, we need this guidance, and yes, these are the guidance that we need. The question is, do they have the political will to make it happen? Well, I remember what Pat said, a wheelbarrow, a little pushing, maybe, is necessary. And therefore, that's why organizations like Saita are very, very important, because you are beginning to get there. We know it's going to take time, but if there's no push, the wheelbarrow will just stand, right? So there is also the need for making sure that our organization, let's say, it is our organization, right? The workers, employers, and governments who actually decided to have this actually act on what they had agreed upon. However, as I think David had mentioned that, okay, so we want, for example, to see the formal and informal work together and all that. There's no really need to wait. And because it takes so many people to make sure any of these actions are taken, while that is happening, what can the office do? This is where, Francisca and myself, who are working in these country offices, are providing this support. For the support we provide to be relevant, we have to hear you tell us that, okay, no, actually we want to do A, we want to do B, and we want to do C, because this is what is relevant now. However, as I say, because it's quote unquote an office, we are really prepared to provide technical assistance rather than, unfortunately, unlike other UN organizations where they could come in with some funding and, fund this and fund that and fund this. But we are really open to work with you, with your ideas, to help you actually solicit funding if it's necessary, in order to make sure what you feel is relevant actually takes place the way you want it to take place. So basically, I think those are my last 3 messages. But these 2 words, political will, very, 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 very important. So if we have a way to convince also us to help you make sure that there is political will in the country, we are open to listen to that. That's for sure. Thank you. We can't hear you. Are you, Luz?
I've just unmuted myself. Sorry, I had my dog barking in the background. Pat, just to come back to you, some closing words.
So I'm going to close with making you think about what Anne-Marie has just said about political will. What is the time when government has the most political will? Just before an election, right? We are just before an election. So guys in Saita, now is the time to move. All the pushing that you need to do, now is the time to do it. Because after the 1st of November, who knows? That's my closing word.
Who knows? Good question. Michael, I'm not sure whether you can hear me, but I'm not going to risk it. Your signal does look a little bit low. We've been busy with this conversation for 52 minutes already. Can you believe it? Time does fly when you're having fun. But I think just to bring into context tonight and just to say thank you to all our panelists. But I think this does warrant a further discussion. I think the discussion is about the implementation process. It's about data collection nationally. It's about the involvement of local government and their role in assisting to make this happen. It's about talking to the formal sector and bringing them on board here and getting a commitment from them that, yes, they want to take hands and make this work. So if you've just joined us this evening, please make sure that you tuned in every Tuesday and every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, where we discuss the pertinent issues of the informal sector. Tonight's discussion was on recommendation 204, which speaks about the transition of the informal economy into a formal space. And this can only be big things. I agree with you, Pat. It's time to take that wheelbarrow and push it all the way just before we make our crosses at the voters' block. From me, Louise, I want to say goodnight, but I also want to tell you that if you are a business and you would like to be featured on Saita Straight Talk, come and tell us your story. We'd love to hear it. Leave your comments in the box and one of our representatives will contact you. Till next time, good night.